I'll just let you lead it and go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Fake Philosopher. Okay, sorry, I'll take that again. Back to one. And hello and welcome to the Fake Philosophers. Today we got an unusual lineup. You got Mitch from North Carolina, that's me, and all the way in California we got Mike. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, some new faces today.
Yeah, new faces. So, any marriage updates? What's it been? Almost 2 weeks now.
Almost 2 weeks. She stopped calling me hubby about a week, sometime last week.
I didn't think that was gonna make it out the door. Honestly, like, call you hubby at the venue, and that's about it.
She was very much, because since we've been together for so long, I think it's something that she's like looked forward to. So that lasted for maybe about 5 days. Where it's like, hello, husband.
Oh, okay. So I thought like hubby, just literally the word hubby was out.
I just meant in general like that instead of babe or something. It's like,
husband.
Hello, husband.
Well, we'll all pray that it resurfaces and keeps going.
Of course. Outside of that, no, it's been the same.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
How is it out there in California? The elections kind of calmed everything down yet?
I don't think anyone really got worked up about California elections. I was kind of watching some of the ones around the country that interested me, but as far as the California ones, I mean, it's pretty standard.
Yeah. I have friends sending me updates like, yeah, California voted for this and that, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even check the measures.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's how much I pay attention.
Yeah. Well, according to the news, this was the most important election of our lives.
I heard some of that.
I really just dropped the ball. I mean, this will be the first time in a long time I haven't voted in a main election. So.
Oh, were you? Oh, now that I think about it, because you probably weren't even registered out there yet.
Correct. Yeah, I'm still. We haven't even changed our licenses over yet, so I'm still dual citizenship.
Oh, okay, sure. No, I did a mail-in vote, which is now controversial, apparently.
What do you think of that? What do you think of the whole "let's make mail-in available for everybody" thing?
I think it's fine. People forget this isn't a new thing from COVID. That, like, I think
100%
I've been mailing
agree.
my ballot in for fucking years.
Yeah, the new thing is that they automatically send a mail-in to everyone, and that's what everyone's losing their shit about, which is unwarranted in my opinion to lose your shit about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really give a fuck. I do it anyway. But like, if you don't want to do it, then just don't mail it in.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Washington, what kind of like brought me around is like when I thought all voting should be vote in person. That's how it should be, and I think I still believe that like it should be vote in person. I still think I have some weird opinions on voting, man. But anyway,
I probably do too.
Different episode. But I remember visiting my sister in Washington, and she's saying, like, yeah, no, it's all mail-in. We don't do any voting booths at all in Washington. So it's not even optional for everyone. It's mandatory. Everyone does mail-ins in Washington.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
So it's not like a new thing. Everyone in California is like, oh, my God, everyone's getting a mail-in. This is the end of democracy. This is, like, insane. Oh, voter fraud, whatever. It's like, I mean, I don't know. It's not new. So
it's definitely not new. Now, I do think there should always be the option to vote in person. That's where I'm kind of like, oh, it's all mail-in. But
yeah.
Now, if it was online voting, that's where I'd kind of be like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that'd be weird. Do you think I'm just gonna straight up ask you, and I want to know your yes or no question. Do you think IDs should be required to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it. We'll move on. You racist.
What? It's kind of weird. It's one of those. And I'm not even saying that's made up, because I know there's some people out there that fucking make that argument that it's like racist or whatever. But I think that's one of those things that is just hyperbolic, that it's not controversial. Like, yeah, have an ID.
Yeah.
Now, the only argument I've heard against it that's not like it's a racist thing is that, and this is, I'm not saying I am behind this argument, that they're saying with new voting laws or registration laws or something, it just makes it harder for some people to get an ID. So that's the argument. Sure. The argument is that by making IDs required, and then by doing these other laws, it's harder to get IDs, that you're kind of, quote unquote, suppressing the vote. And I just don't know enough about that to make an argument about it, or at least an informed argument.
Yeah.
But as far as the basic have a voter ID, yeah, why not? Like that's
same
very
with
not
me.
like that's not controversial at all. I don't.
There's a lot more consequential things and a lot more less consequential things that require ID, and it seemed like voting seemed one of those very simple ways that I think you would shut a lot of Republicans up. And I hate, the appeasement argument, like, hey, if we do this, maybe they'll shut up, because they won't. But you shut up a lot of Republicans screaming voter fraud if you just did the ID. It's like, okay, now we know, that's a little bit, but they'll find something else to bitch about. It's what we do. So
no, of course, there's always everyone always moves the goalpost. They want to whine, they want to point the finger. So no matter what,
right. Okay, no, I was just curious. I mean, I'm open to it because it's always seems so obvious to me. And the strongest argument I've ever seen is that differently privileged communities aren't as accessible to IDs. That's what I've heard. The strongest argument is that
that's what I was kind of alluding to.
Yeah, and it's like, I get it, but it's just not true for me.
well, why would we know? One thing I remember, and again, I'm not that informed on it. I'm not going to say that this is a fact, but I remember reading about something to where, I forgot what state it was. They made it required to have an ID when you vote in person, but then they shut down the DMV in these neighborhoods. So now to go get an ID, you have to travel farther, and now instead of 2 DMVs for 2 cities, it's 1 DMV for 1 city, and we all know how fucking efficient the DMV is anyway.
Oh, brother, I haven't been to the DMV in North Carolina yet, but my wife's been looking into it, and because we've been trying to get our licenses changed, and from what I've heard so far, it's way worse. So I'll probably be getting into that in the next week, so I might have some stories.
And I'll say this: if there's any argument against voter ID laws, the DMV is a pretty strong fucking place to start.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I'm right, like I said, it's not even a controversial thing. You should have an ID to vote. I think that's fine. But if someone's like, "Yeah, but Mike, have you been to the DMV?" I'd be like,
"Okay, that's a fair point." It's a fair point.
Do you have a car registration, a bill? Do you have something else with your name on it?
How do you fuck up a renewal? All you have to do is reprint it with the same goddamn date. But no, okay, but
it takes 3 to 4 weeks.
Different date. No. Man. Yeah, that's okay. So, I mean, this is new. I don't think anyone's talked about this. How bad the DMV can be.
No one's ever talked about that at all yet.
But that's the DMV's always been and I've said it before on this podcast, and this is a true story, and I might have said this before, but the DMV has been my strongest argument for why I believe popular votes in a national election, especially for a president, are just I think you're kind of naive if you think your vote actually does matter, because if you believe that the people at the DMV are somehow capable of counting everyone's votes in one night, you got something wrong with you. So
do the DMV people do that?
Well, they're government people. The same government people that do the DMV. Okay, they're worse than the DMV. They're volunteers that, so
when you said that, I specifically imagined some of these fucking animals at the DMV counting votes, and I was like, okay, now I'm open to voter fraud. If they're counting them, maybe he's on to something. If they're counting them.
No, I'm pretty sure, for me, it's worse. At least the people at the DMV, might get fired if they mess up. No, they're if you can imagine a volunteer DMV worker, that's essentially who run the toll booth. And if anyone's listening to this getting offended, I don't care.
I disagree. I would trust a volunteer DMV person, because a volunteer cares. It's like a volunteer army versus a conscripted army. The volunteer army is winning every time.
Okay.
The DMV people, and I also disagree with you, I don't think they get fired. I don't even have to go into it. There's no way anyone at the DMV is getting fired, or else I would have seen it in person.
Several times. Oh, that's true. Yeah, okay. Maybe you're right, but yeah.
But
okay.
Again, I will say it, and I'm very much somebody who's critical of people who are like, the 2020 election was stolen. If you told me DMV workers specifically were counting the vote, I might come on board.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, okay, so we know they're volunteers that run the booths. The counters, though, are definitely state employees. So that's why I'm like...
As long as they're not in the DMV.
Right, compared to all those other... Okay, what state... You know what? I hate to paint a broad stroke here. But it seems to me that most state employees, not law enforcement or first responders, but most state employees, bureaucrats, are cut from the same cloth. Whether it be DMV or highway patrol, Caltrans, whatever. Like highway patrol, I mixed feelings. But anyway,
I understand. I'll counter. I think it depends. It's almost like if you say I'm a bartender. Oh, where do you bartend? And you say I bartend at Yard House, or I bartend at P.F. Chang's, or I bartend at my bar, or this other bar. But if you say I've bartended for 10 years at Applebee's, I'm kind of like, You know what I mean? I'm going, Or if they're like, yeah, I've been a mixologist at Chili's. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but
all right.
In that, then I don't see much difference between like a state planning inspector versus a health inspector versus a DMV worker versus any other state bureaucrat employee.
I do. I think there's different levels of stupidity, and I've had my issues with all of the above you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But there are different levels of it. Like you could even yeah. And so where like if you're a food inspector, you do have a skill. Whereas if you're a DMV worker, you're useless.
They found a place for you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not racist, but if you work for the DMV, I might call you some names.
You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit animal, and yeah. I have yet to meet an employee of the DMV. So, like in person. Like I've yet to meet someone.
A social setting?
No, yeah, yeah, I have this friend who works for the DMV, and they offered a very different point of view. No, never seen that. No.
Because I don't think they talk about it.
They wouldn't advertise. I work for the state. What do you do? They're social workers, because technically they do work for the social program.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, so I bet anyone who works for the DMV just say they're a social worker.
Yeah, and I take back what I said. I don't even think that they're animals. I think that job, they simply don't give a fuck.
No, yeah, nor should they.
So it's not that they are themselves incompetent. It's just they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And
well,
so anyway.
Yeah, why would they? Why would they?
Exactly. You're gonna wait in line.
Yeah.
Like you don't.
You're gonna wait.
You're gonna wait. So I'm gonna take my time.
You've been behind the bar. You've stood between a poor soul that just got off work and that nice cold beer. You're that guy that's in between. You have a little bit of power. You can say, hey, calm down on this or whatever. You have that, like, it's not power, but it's.
I got you.
It's that little bit like, oh, I'm the gatekeeper here. I can, I have a little bit of. Now with DMV, they stand between you and convenience, and that's all they have.
And it's not like you can go to the DMV down the street because you don't like this DMV. It's like, this is the DMV.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I got a funny.
If the DMV made their money on tips.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
I think that'd be a completely different DMV.
So we should privatize the DMV. That's what we should do. Privatize all the roads and privatize the DMV. That's the answer.
Dude, AAA, I'm in and out of there in like 15 minutes.
They're the shit. Some AAAs, like the AAA in Rancho, like they have a DMV inside.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
The workers at that DMV are different. What the hell?
No, 100%.
I don't know.
Anyway, you were about to say something.
I had a funny idea. It might be a segment, I don't know, but I'm going to call this Mitch's North Carolina word of the day. Kind of inspired by, well, yeah, it's not even inspired. It's a direct ripoff of Jeff Foxworthy's redneck word. So I'm at work and I'm in the shop and I'm chatting with a couple guys, and they're all Southern guys and they all have pretty thick accents, but I'm chatting with this one guy, and I had said something along the line. I'll spare most of the details, but I said something about how, man, I wish I would have been an electrician instead. I should have become an electrician because they don't need to know much. They get paid, and even if they mess up, they still work, because I was just it was a dig on electricians. And I'm chatting with this other guy who's also a generator tech, and he was saying, oh yeah, you could be whatever you want. And he said, howdy. And I'm like, okay, we've been sitting here chatting for about an hour, but hi, And he said it again, howdy. I'm like, what? I don't get it. Howdy do? Like, what? What do you want? And then I realized what he was trying to say was, how old are you? But his accent was so thick, it came out, howdy. So I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm sorry. How old are you? Okay, howdy translated to, how old are you? And I was like, I'm 33. And he's like, oh, you can do whatever you want, man. That's fine. Be an electrician. Whatever. He's like, because he's real. He's like, the way he talks, he just kind of doesn't really open his mouth much. And he looks at me and he's like, howdy.
Okay. I hear it now when you said it that time.
Yeah.
Howdy.
So it was
Okay.
Howdy. Like, howdy. Hi. Oh, God.
That reminds me, there was a story my sister told me when she was like in middle school or high school, I forgot, to where they had a substitute teacher and they were torturing this poor bastard. He was like a veteran, like a hardcore military guy or something. And
Which sister? Which is a pit bull sister or married sister?
Married sister.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so, and she told this story. I heard it from a few of her friends too that were in the class, so I knew it was real. That they were pissing this guy off so fucking bad that, like, he was like, if you were in the army, and he kept saying, like, if you were in the army, this wouldn't blah, 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 and they're just like, whatever. And then eventually he, like, got so mad and he, like, yelled at them, and they were just, like, kind of laughing, started fucking with him, you know. And he's like, Jeremy! And someone was like, who's Jeremy?
Jeremy? Do you hear me? Is that what you're saying?
Do you hear me? And someone was like, who's Jeremy?
Oh, no. Oh, poor
He
guy.
apparently didn't like that.
Just make it worse. Well, you can't lose your shit on kids. They'll jump on that, man.
Yeah, I have some good stories. As weird as it sounds, when I was in 8th grade, we would always fuck with the sub.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not weird. I think that's pretty standard. I think everyone did that.
The only weird part of it was, like, half of our class was, like, honor roll AP students. So it wasn't like a bunch of fucking, knuckleheads fucking with, like, it was, like, smart people.
Not like
fucking
the rest
with
of
the
us.
subs. Unlike the rest of you, yeah. No, it was actually really beautiful because, like, a lot of us were in, like, honor roll and AP classes, but then we did have some knuckleheads in the class, and together, it's like we had the smarts, but they had the ideas.
Right. I picture all the smart kids going to the troublemakers and be like, bro, we need you. And the troublemaker's like, all right, now's my time, you know.
But then, like, we kept them in check, like, okay, you're pushing too much. Pull it back. Like, it was great.
We'll help you with your homework and all, bro. Just, pull it back a little bit. Yeah. Yep. Well, North Carolina word of the day. I think the guy's technically from Kentucky, so I don't know if that mattered, but anyway.
Well, you're in North Carolina now. He needs to adapt, or
everyone here mumbles. Like, everyone that I've worked with mumbles.
I think that could be generally a Southern thing, because when I've gone to Alabama in the past, there's been a lot of people that just kind of, hey, what are you doing? All right, cool.
Yeah, I was on a job yesterday with a guy, and he, like, the whole time I was sitting with him, this new guy, never met him before, and chatting with him, and I, like, almost every time he talked, I had to be like, what? Wait, what? I didn't catch that. And then I thought it was just me. And then we went in, we're meeting, like, the manager on site, and he was asking him too, like, what? I'm like, okay, cool. Not just
so you're not crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what a kind of sort of positive thing from coming from California. Growing up in California is that we have the generic American accent.
Yeah.
To where no matter where we go in any English speaking world or country, they're going to understand us. We might not understand them.
Right. But they'll get it. I remember someone talking about that, like the phonetically correct accent or something, like the way it's spelled is how they pronounce it or something like that.
Well, there might be something to that. More specifically, excuse me. I first experienced this because I can understand the Southern dialect a lot because I grew up, like, visiting family in Alabama and Florida and stuff. So I was around it. I think I may have said this before. No, when I was in Australia, and I went out with some Australians that worked at the hotel I stayed at, like, they were thick in their Australian accents. So I even said, I was like, hey, I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but, like, I'm not understanding everything you guys are saying. Like, is that mutual? I was just being real. You know what I mean? I was like,
yeah.
Because just the dialect's different. And they were like, oh, no, we understand everything you're saying. And the reason was, think about it, Hollywood is in Southern California. Everyone speaks this generic American accent, this generic English accent, and all those movies go to every English-speaking country. Yeah. So these Australians kind of grew up and still watch Hollywood-produced movies. There's still some Australian cinema, but, like, they mainly watch these movies from Hollywood, so they hear this dialect all the time. So when I come around, like, they just understand me.
Yeah. Huh. Mm-hmm. That's kind of funny. Like, we had a similar thing when last year I got to go to England and visiting, family out in country, and like just being like, fine, understood every word and like whatever. And then meanwhile, when I'm with my parents and they put on like a British movie or something, they have to turn on the subtitles because they have no idea what they're saying, like that kind of thing. And then they turn off the subtitles because they're all blind and they can't see the subtitles anyway without glasses. And it's just a fun movie night.
A mess.
But my wife and I always watch British movies. She watches that Crown shit. We watch everything like that comes out of England and we love it. So I think it's that same kind of thing. It's like we watch so much of it, we just kind of get the accent down.
Yeah. Sure. And then sometimes though, I'm not sure about North Carolina, but I know in the South, and even like having been to England myself, and even so when I went to New Zealand a few years ago, same thing. Like you talk to a regular person, you're like, oh, I know that accent. It's like the New Zealand accent, whatever. And then you hit a New Zealand dialect that you've never heard before, and you're like, oh my God. Like, I'm not going to say the guy's name in case he watches this because I'm friends with him on Facebook, but there was one cat in New Zealand. All I could say, it was like New Zealand Cockney.
Oh, weird. Okay.
And I was just like, I can't understand a fucking word you're saying. I didn't say it to his face, obviously. But like at one point I was like, oh my God. Like he was saying like the number 3, free. Like F, free.
Free.
And I was like, you're straight out of a movie.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I guess like, well, every region has their Cockney. Like even the Southern has like, because I think of King of the Hill, Boomhauer and King of the Hill. It's just so like talking about so everything. Every region has that, and I guess California does too. It's kind of just that surfer,
generic redneck.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, but then there's the uber hippie super surfer type. Watch out.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, you got some beach cities there, but I guess every region would have its Cockney. I wouldn't say lower class accent.
You can say that, or just ignorant accent.
The ignorant.
What's kind of funny too about the Southern ones is like there's obviously the typical Southern accent, and you generally sound a little more ignorant. But there's actually kind of, I forgot there's a term for it, and it's in a book I have somewhere, but I'm not going to go looking for it right now. But let's call it the plantation Southern accent.
Okay.
To where it's very high class and high brow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah.
Very like these people own slaves. Like they're high class. They have money. There's like that accent too. When people think Southern accent, they think kind of redneck, hillbilly.
Right.
But there is like that. There's that nice high class Southern accent where you're like talking about the stars, and it's like, I'm horrible at accents.
No. I saw an interview with Fred Almisen once, and he was talking about his latest, whatevers, and he said that one of his new hobbies is getting the accent down in every state in America there is. And they're like, so is Southern just all Southern? He's like, oh my God, no. Like the difference between Kentucky, Tennessee, Carolinas, Florida, Louisiana, Arkansas, like even just Louisiana, I think is like where you hear that, that Southern, oh Lord, the flowers are wilting kind of, the bit Frenchy kind of Southern accent. Yeah, it varies so much. And then in all of those, they have their super lower class side of it. It's
the version rough. Of it,
yeah. Anyway,
accents
are fascinating. So, what do you got? What do you got for us, Mike?
Let me see if I have my notes. My notes here.
TMZ. Now we're starting. Getting into it.
I have a. This isn't a big one. It's a quick one, but another little grocery gripe, I guess.
There we go.
This wasn't even really a grocery gripe. Just kind of this. I just wanted someone's opinion on it, make sure I wasn't the asshole. So,
on this week of Am I the Asshole?
Am I the Asshole? No, so pretty much I do try to even though my car is only about a year old, I try to take care of it and everything, but it's already gotten beat up in the year I've had it, so I'm kind of like, whatever. So it's not like I'm parking far away from anybody anymore. Like I just get right in there.
We had a good run, but that's that.
But no, but this happened a week or two ago. Because I remember this note's been in my phone for a bit. To where I parked and it wasn't a busy store day. There was plenty of spaces around me. And so in this one time, I had the cart kind of leaned against my car, kind of in the space next to me, while I was loading it up. And like I said, plenty of spaces around. Mm-hmm. And this guy kind of pulls up and kind of starts turning into it. Then he sees my cart. And it wasn't an aggressive honk, but he kind of honked at me to move my cart. And I remember, I'm not about to fight some guy over this. So I was kind of like, all right. And I kind of pulled it to the back so it was out of the way. But in my head, I was like, dude, there's so many goddamn spots around here. Like if it was, if don't get me wrong, if it was busy and like this spot was open up front, I'd been like, okay, I get it. Like it's an open spot, but like there's so many spots.
That surprises me. That's pretty aggressive for California. That's kind of like usually they're so passive and kind of, and what I've experienced anyway. People just would rather. I would rather park the other side of the parking lot than even get into a conversation with someone. So.
And don't get me wrong, like I said, I've done it to where like if it's busy and like that spot's the only spot's open for like aisles, I might give a little love tap on the horn to like ask you to move your shit. But
yeah,
there was literally the next spot was open.
Yeah. Interesting. Could it be a thing? It was like where they were like turning in and they didn't see it until they were already kind of turning, and it was like, look, I'm not going to redo this turn. Can you just move it so I can go?
No,
was it like
no.
that?
So. No, because they were coming from the other side. So if they, I see what you mean. If they were coming from like, I guess you would say car side, my car side.
Yeah.
So they didn't see me in the cart, but they were coming from the other way.
Okay, so they saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Interesting. No, I don't think you're the asshole, but that's kind of really, dude. Like, okay, you'd rather honk move than just go somewhere else.
Yeah, and like I didn't, like I said, I didn't make a big thing about it, but I did kind of look at him, kind of like, huh. Like, really? And so he kind of did like a hand movement, and I was like, I'm not about to fucking get into it with this guy. Like,
yeah.
I don't know this motherfucker. Like,
yeah.
But so that,
yeah.
There's a topic. I was actually thinking about this earlier today about some random shit. When I see people getting into public confrontations like that, and I've seen a couple, I just kind of want, and because I think you and we're both the same. We're not going to fucking fuck with people in public. Like, I don't care enough. But some of these people do, and I'm just like, do you not understand that you don't know this person?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that's a concept we talked about before, but like, for example, in high school, I had a friend named Justin. I don't remember our exact heights because we've all grown since then, but he was like at least 6 inches to a foot shorter than everybody in the room. And he was skinny. He was lean. I mean, he was in shape, but he was skinny. And this dude took boxing. Like,
there you go.
And he took it seriously. Like, he didn't compete, but he took it. And I still remember at some party, I forgot what it was, if he hit on the guy's girlfriend, I forgot what happened, but this guy got into his face and was threatening him. And to Justin's credit, he's like, yo, back the fuck off me. Like, do not fuck with me. And the guy shoved him. And it was the quickest 3 hits I've ever seen in my life. And this dude was fucking stumbling away, fucking broken nose.
Awesome.
And there was a lesson early on in my life. I maybe didn't know how to articulate it at the time, but I was like, you don't know who you're fucking with.
100%, yeah. So North Carolina has no rules as far as concealed carry. Or no, as far as open carry. So you can walk around with a gun on your belt, and that's fine. Unless like a county dictates that you can't, or a city says you can't, or a building says you can't do it. You can walk around the street with a gun on your hip, and no one will stop you. You can also carry a gun in your car, and that's not a problem at all. So that's kind of made me realign my whole road rage perspective, is realizing that someone could just draw, and then that's my day. Like,
well, even, yeah, and I mean, 100%. But even without the laws, or even with laws, like, you don't know if somebody just has a fucking gun under their seat.
True, yeah, and that was true in California too. It's like, you have no idea. People, I mean, strongest gun laws in California, but people got shot there all the time. So I don't,
Yeah, and so even it reminded me a couple months ago, this guy at the bar. I'm not gonna go into the whole reason why, but like literally everyone in the bar was like, "This guy needs to leave because he's fucking pissing everyone off."
Okay.
And he apparently was a veteran or something. But I kind of was like, "Hey man," and he's like, "I don't mean any disrespect. Like I just was trying to talk. I don't know. I was trying to talk to him, understand why he was upset with me and blah blah." And I was like, "Look, dude, like let's just call it a day. Your tab's already closed out. Let's just." And I walked him outside. And at one point he's like, "Hey man, like I just want to thank you for talking to me." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And I saw his hand go to his hip. And granted, there wasn't a gun on him or anything. I couldn't see anything. But in my head, I was like, because he came in to like hug me like with one hand, and his other hand went down.
Yeah.
And immediately I was like, I don't know this fucking guy. I've never met him. He's not a regular.
Oh my God.
I don't know. And so, granted, it's not great knives, but I had a knife in my back pocket.
Yeah.
And so just when I kind of saw that, I got a little paranoid, and like I kind of hugged him with one hand, and I had my hand on my knife.
Yeah.
So I don't know this motherfucker. Like,
don't know.
I felt so paranoid afterwards and silly.
Yeah, but
I was like,
no, you never know.
I don't know this guy. And
Ask any police officer or former police officer ever.
Sure.
They'll hear that story and be like, no, 100%. That's not weird at all. Because they've seen it all. And people,
And so cops is part of their job, like never to underestimate everyone. But even common people, I think it was Whoopi Goldberg actually said she got into a little trouble some years back because I forgot who fucking hit who, but she said pretty much don't quote me, but she pretty much took the position that if you're a woman who hits a man and the man hits you back, you had it coming. and she took some flack for that. And
I don't know. I'm pretty much willing to bet money that was not a direct quote, but I loved that paraphrase. That was brilliant.
It was something to that effect. So I remember she took some flack for it. And I remember later she released a statement like a vote. I remember watching the video to where she's like, "Here's my point. If you hit anybody, and you were surprised to hit you back, I'm paraphrasing now, but you're an idiot." And she's like, "That's why I don't go around hitting people."
Because yeah,
and I know Whoopi's a little nuts every now and then, but like that point she made, I was like, yeah, don't get in people's faces, like like the dude. Remember the story I told you? The dude at the store who was in the fucking the cart thing when he started talking to me, and he was like fucking telling me all these stories about how he's in jail and shit. In my head, I was like, I remember I told that story to someone. They're like, "Why didn't you just say like I have to go and walk away?" And I was like, "Because I don't know this man, and if I just walk away, he might flip out on me." Like I was like, I don't know him.
Yeah, you just don't know. Yeah. Ugh. No, but yeah. So yeah, no, but back to the story. You don't want to get into it, and yeah, I don't understand because there are people who, I mean, get it like regularly. We'll like have yelling competitions with complete strangers at the store or in the car or whatever. It's just part of their life. And I hate to, and I won't say that I would never do that because I've had those days where I'm like, dude, I'm about to scream my head off at this guy and lose my shit. So I can't say confidently that I would never. I never have, but I would never.
And I get it when you lose your shit. I get that.
But because you never know. They're packing. Like just assume everyone's packing or knows UFC and it can just take you out.
But and that unless it's something like very serious, like I just don't. I'm not going to get into it with a fucking stranger.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
Because you hear these stories too, and we don't have to get into the whole thing. Like it's just shootings that happen randomly and all that stuff. And it's like I don't need that. Dude cuts me off. I'm not going to try to go flip him off.
Yeah, and every story you hear about so-and-so, friendly doctor, whatever, teachers, husband and wife assaulted at the Dodgers game, at the Dodger Stadium during an Elton John game. And every time you hear those stories, like, oh my God, random violence, whatever, never the case. It's always a confrontation broke out and they got their asses handed to them. And then I'm like, okay, play the game.
And this is a good transition. I was going to say, don't get me started, but let's just go into it. People who fight at sports games are the dumbest motherfuckers. I'm not sure if we talked about it on while we recorded before, but like, it's fun to watch.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
When people start fighting, but like in my head, I'm like, you are the dumbest motherfucker. Like people fight about politics. I've seen fights break out about politics. At least politics affects your life.
Yeah.
So like you might get passionate about it, but when you're when you were fighting for a fucking sports team that doesn't even give a fuck about you.
I remember there was a rash in the late 90s of parents fighting at Little League games. It was like the thing. It was like, I think it was just every week you heard about, whatever. I remember I was like 10. So I didn't, care much, but my parents are like, that's so weird. We would go to when I was in Little League, my parents knew I sucked. They were just like, nah, we're not even going to get into this shit.
Like he's just going to have fun.
Yeah. But no, apparently that was, and I could it's going to sound weird, but fighting at an NFL game seems so much stupider than fighting at a Little League game. Cause at least at a Little League game, if someone's talking shit about your kid, I got to lay him out. It's, you kind of see it.
Yeah, but I mean, yes. And there's something to be said about the person in this hypothetical talking shit to a kid on the other team anyway.
Yeah.
There's some other mental things going on there. But no, like if you fight at an NFL game or any sports game, or even at a bar, and as a bartender, I've seen this to where someone's like, Lakers suck. Oh, that's what you think? And 30 seconds later, security's between these two guys.
Wow. Wow.
Granted, he's passed away, obviously, but at the time, a thing I'd say a lot is like, do you think Kobe's going to send you a thank you card? Like, no one gives a fuck if you're fighting for them, athlete-wise, like sports-wise.
Yeah,
and that's just one
of my favorite things to do is like watch sports at a bar and talk shit about the other team. Unfortunately, I'm a Broncos fan, so I mostly talk shit about my own team. But on those like rare times when it's like a good game and, you know, you have fans from the other team and it's all in good fun and you talk shit back and forth, it's great.
I'm fine with that too. I'm fine with that. If it's there's a difference between talking shit and ribbing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
I had a guy when I lived in Bishop. He was a Steelers fan, and every time it was just one game. It was one game, Steelers Broncos, and the Broncos lost. But the Steelers, every time the Steelers scored, the guy bought me a beer from like down from the bar. So it was like his way to say, you know, kind of thing. Every time the Steelers scored, he'd send me a beer, and I was like, "You fucking motherfucker!"
No, that's the ultimate like fuck you, because you can't even get mad at him. He's saying like, "We're better than you. I'm gonna buy you a beer." Out of pity.
It's so good. It's so good.
You can't say shit. You're like, fuck you. Because you know what he's doing, but then you can't get mad. Like,
and it reminded me of that scene in Goodfellas where like the go get your fucking shine box, scene. At the end of it, he's like, hey, drinks on me. No, drinks on the house. Hey, drinks on me. Drinks are on the house. You know, kind of that little like, hey, you're not paying for my fucking drinks. Like kind of.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think you were a dick. I think that guy was kind of, I wouldn't even say rude, because it was just kind of like a really? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, because even when he got out of the car, he's like, thanks, and walked inside.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it was just an odd thing. I was like, you did honk your horn at me to move my fucking cart, and there's a space right next to me. Like, what's going on, man?
Weird.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What else
what
else have I got in here? In the old notepad here. I'm
going to get back on my notepad this week. In fact, I'm going to just start carrying around, and next time we record, I'll have my notepad, and we can, and I'll be having random thoughts.
Sure. So, yeah, this is one thing I as we talked about before we started recording, I came across today. We every now and then we talk about philosophical concepts, logical fallacies, et cetera, et cetera.
Which we should, because our title.
Exactly. And this is one that is, it's one of, I mean, I say this almost every time we talk about it, one of these things, but it happens a lot, and it's one of the ones that really bugs the fuck out of me, because I've come across it so often, especially in politics, but in almost everything. The false dilemma / false dichotomy. I had the thing up, but I'm not gonna read it verbatim. It's pretty simple. It goes in. You can get into it more in complex ways, but the base is false dichotomy is obviously false two choices, but the false dilemma is pretty much could be 3, 4 choices, whatever. But it's pretty much saying, here are your choices, and that's it, without bringing in alternatives, other alternatives.
No, yeah, yeah.
For instance, let's rewind to 2016. I would say, hey, I'm not voting for fucking Donald Trump. Fuck Donald Trump. And someone's like, oh, so you must be a Hillary supporter. And I'm like, fuck that bitch. No. As if those were your only two. I mean, granted, I get the two-party system. Realistically, those were quote-unquote the only two options. But as far as preference and favorability, no, you can dislike both of them and like other people.
Yeah.
It's almost like an example on the Wikipedia page for it said, like, do you like capitalism? And you say, no, I don't like capitalism. Oh, so you're a communist. No. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other options out there except for these two things. And even, so this is it's kind of weird how I always say this. I'm like, oh, so this was pre-COVID, as if it's like a landmark. But this is when I was still bartending. I remember this guy, because one, never, if there's any lesson, never talk politics at the bar, first of all.
If you're a bartender, because as a patron, I don't know what else to talk about.
Religion.
No, shit, yeah.
But I think even patron or as a bartender, you should never talk politics at the bar. It's just in bad taste. And anyway, this one guy who came in who tended to like me a lot, kind of uncomfortably when I was bartending.
Gay?
Not even like a gay way. No, just like he always was like, is Mike here? Like, it was weird. He started talking to people and he's like, hey, let's talk about politics and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, man, no, let's not do that. Let's not do that. He's like, Mike, well, let me ask you a question. I was like, no.
No.
And so he was kind of like, how about this? I'm going to ask you one political question, and that's it. And I was like, fine, if it'll make you drop the subject. And he's like, you like Donald Trump, right? And I was like, fuck, because I'm not a liar. I'm not a liar.
Yeah. Okay.
So sometimes I dodge questions, I dip them, I duck them, but I'm not a liar.
Because I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. So I was just kind of like, what I said was like, nah, man, like I'm not really digging Donald Trump. I don't really dig him that much. And his response, he looked at me like in shock. He's like, really? And I was like, yeah. Like, he's not my kind of guy. And he was like, so like, do you like transgender guys like going into women's bathrooms and touching kids? Like that's what you're into? And I was like,
What?
whoa. I was like, whoa. Like,
Whoa.
there's a lot of layers here, like that to make that jump. But in his head,
we just skipped like 3 or 4 steps there, bro. Like,
yeah, but that, in his head, it was like you're either a Donald Trump Republican or you're okay with transgenders touching kids.
Wow.
That's a false dichotomy. There's obviously a lot more things out there and a lot more layers that if you decline one thing, that you're obviously the other.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I try to understand the logic path, and I guess, but the phrasing of the initial question was wrong. I guess a better question would be like, you're voting for Donald Trump, right? Which would be like, not saying you like him, but that's the kind of maybe a better. I'm not trying to defend this guy, trust me, but
no, I understand. Don't worry.
My reflex is to try to improve the conversation, I guess. But anyway, dichotomy is a very interesting thing, and I was listening to Dan Harmon bitch about this because he's very anti two-party. He's very anti hierarchy in general, which is kind of weird. But dichotomy being he believes dichotomy is a kind of like a reflex, like a weak reflex humanity does to simplify complicated issues.
Sure.
And it totally makes sense. You go back to the basic form of all logic, which is yes or no. If and then, everything comes down to yes or no. Are you, example, do you eat meat? Yes or no? You either eat meat or you're a hippie, or, it's something like there's humans need to simplify it so that way they don't have to think too hard about it. And that way they can move things along. Capitalism does it a lot. Capitalism really needs the dichotomy because it keeps it super simple, and people think, okay, either I agree with the terrorists or I'm going to go buy a Pepsi. And, I don't think I agree with the terrorists, so I think I'm just going to go buy a Pepsi. Sorry, that wasn't a dig. I was going to say McDonald's originally, but then that fucking
I understand.
Have a Pepsi commercial popped into my head. So
I understand. And the thing is, like, there are some dichotomies where it's like, do you eat meat? Yeah. Yes and no. That's a yes. That's a clear yes or no answer.
Right.
But if you said, are Muslims bad?
Right. Yeah.
That you can't say like, hey, are you friends with Muslims? Yeah. Oh, so you like terrorists? Whoa.
It's like, motherfucker. Yeah.
Like that's what it just kind of, I encountered that a little bit today. In some conversations, I've what's the term? I relapsed on political conversations on Facebook.
Oh no! You had so long. I gotta take your chip back.
Yeah, I was on the wagon for a while. Yeah. And in recent days, I think it was following just the midterms. I fell off the wagon, got into it with some people.
I didn't see it yet. What was it? What was up?
It was just like, look, and actually when we're done, I might actually have to keep talking to this guy just because he challenged me.
I'm going back.
I'm already off the wagon. Just give me more.
Yeah.
No, it's just because the logical fallacies and the things he's saying. So, like, he was talking about, and we don't have to get too heavy into the political aspect of this, but he was talking about how now, in Arizona, how there's all this fraud and this and that. And I was like, I was polite and I was like, I think she just is mad she's lost, man. Like, there's no evidence of any of this. Like, if there is fraud, like, I'm all about, like, fuck that. Like, it should be fixed. He even posted a video of an example. I forgot which. It was a smaller election where it was in Georgia. I think it was a state level election though. And Georgia, the 50% rule.
Did not. I know they're in a runoff right now, but I didn't know.
Well, no. So not Walker and Warnock. It was a more local, state level, not like Senate. Okay. It was like a local thing. Anyway, the 50% rule. So there's 3 of them, and 2 of them, none of them got the 50%. So 2 of them moved on, and the one who didn't move on was like, that's weird. And she looked into it, And it turns out there were some inconsistencies, and there was legitimate concern. So she asked for a hand recount, and sure enough, there was a lot of mistakes. And so she ended up getting put into their runoff, and somebody else wasn't. And so I even commented, because he tagged me, he's like, "See, it happens," and I was like, "Yeah," and I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But because he thought that, because I was like, there's, as of right now, no real evidence in Arizona, that I just thought across the board voter fraud does not exist, that there's no mistakes. And I even said to him, I was like, no, like that's a great story. That's a good example of a critical thinker who went in, investigated, saw some errors, and they fixed it. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And even pointing that out, then he started talking about like something else. And that's the whataboutism, or the straw man, where he stared bringing up other things.
I think it's the red herring, where it's like, well, let's divert and go somewhere else.
So even in the most recent post, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but he pretty much, it was one of those things where it's like, let's say it was me, you, and Eddie talking, and me and you are in a heated argument. And Eddie's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Let me tell you something, Eddie. Mitch doesn't care about this. Mitch doesn't." So he started ranting to somebody else about me.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, like, because he's like, Mike doesn't care about cheating. Mike doesn't care about facts. Mike doesn't care if there's a corrupt election. And I was like, I didn't say any of that shit. Just because I don't agree with you, it just must be the other thing.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there is do you remember when I had mentioned the straw, we did an episode on the straw man, and then a couple times later, I realized that the straw man was actually, there's a whole subsection of all different kinds of straw mans. And I know false dichotomy, it's not worded that way, but there's several classifications that follows that. The oversimplification kind of thing, the it's this or nothing kind of argument.
In this case, it's because I don't believe there's fraud in Arizona currently. It must mean that I don't care about election cheating or election fraud if I don't believe this. Right. And that's why I came up today. I was like,
Which it's a great thing, because I shouldn't say never, because I don't remember that well. I don't believe in using dichotomy in arguments like it's this or nothing, because I do believe everyone's very complicated. Sure. But you get into a weird thing when it comes to politics, because it's two-party, or it's largely two-party, that there is a dichotomy. So there is kind of an argument to be had there. Because right now, I mean, it's because it's topical right now, Trump is announcing his run, and the GOP, when at the time of recording this, is as of yet not thrown their hat in the ring with, or like, kind of like backed him up. And everyone's like, oh my fucking God. And I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen with Hillary and Bernie. There was the thing of like, a lot of people were freaked out because they thought that Bernie took a lot of voters from Hillary. And that's why Trump won, is because Bernie had so much following. And now everyone's saying the same kind of thing, is if the GOP backs DeSantis, then there's going to be a lot of Trump followers that are going to be, losing the vote, essentially. And in that kind of sense, I'm like, well, this is a dichotomy. I don't know if it's a false one, because it's kind of true. In a two-party system, that's the way it kind of works, is it's one or the other. And you don't have to like it, but voting for one is, not voting for one or not voting for either is kind of the same as voting for one or the other.
Yeah, and I think with the two-party system, it's kind of a unique situation, because, like, if we say, is it a dichotomy, two choices? I mean, literally, no, because there's a lot of third parties. But practically, yes. Pragmatically, yeah. Like, the third-party system, like, no one's going to win third party right now. Right. Excuse me. I was going to say, though, I think when people present false dichotomies in politics, it's kind of just get your questions. Because, like, it's a lot sexier, if you will, metaphorically speaking, if you're in a debate and you're like, do you support gun rights, yes or no, when there are layers to that shit. So,
I was just going to suggest guns as being a great topic of that, because it is not yes or no. There's a lot of complicated questions in the guns issue. So yeah.
And that we have talked about it before, where like, I am generally pro gun, but that doesn't mean I'm completely against gun control. I'm not completely against gun laws, if they make sense. But I am pro-gun. So it's funny getting those conversations where someone's like, are you pro-gun or are you not? And I was like, I am. And they're like, so we should never have any bans on any weapons. And I was like, well, hold on. And so, but there's a lot of politicians and just people on the ground like me and you who get into these arguments and they try to bring up those questions as dichotomies when they're not. There's a lot more layers to them.
There was, I think it was Ben Shapiro that awakened that idea in my head when someone asked him about legalizing weed. And his response was, I am pro legalizing weed. I am anti weed.
Sure.
And that was his response. I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. You don't, there is not yes or no. There can be that complicated thing. And that's just as legitimate. He's saying, like, personally, I don't smoke. Personally, I don't let it in my house or with my family, but I don't think the government should be telling me that. And
that's fair.
Everyone should be allowed to do it. And I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. Okay. Love it. So
yeah.
My mom was on the news once when I was a kid because she was at the beach and the news was going around interviewing people because they were about to outlaw cigarettes on the beach. No more smoking on the beach, which I think they did. I don't think you're allowed to smoke on the beach in California anymore. But my mom was on the beach and the news happened to be going around interviewing people like, what do you think? And my mom, who's very passionate, very opinionated on everything, doesn't have to be necessarily. My mom is like, I think I get where I get it. It's like I can find a way to get angry at everything. They asked my mom, what do you think about outlawing cigarettes on the beach? My mom was like, I'm completely against outlawing. That's ridiculous. I'm not even a smoker, and I think it's stupid. It's one more thing they're trying to control or take away from people and this and that. And I remember watching my mom on TV losing her shit, and she's not even a smoker. And I'm like, okay, I think I kind of like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's I think everyone's get it. The false dichotomy is presenting, or a false dilemma is the general one. You're presenting a limited number of options when there are other legitimate alternatives. I'm gonna try to think of more examples and like come back I think next week and like, hey, thought of this, thought of that, what do you think, and expand on it because it's a very interesting thing. It is. It's kind of, and it can be down to a basic thing to where like we talked about the spider thing some months ago, and if I go, we could kill the spider by hitting it with a fucking magazine, then you go, the only way to kill the spider is by burning the house down.
Right.
You could spray it, you could smash it with your shoe. There's 100 other options you could do, but if we're arguing about two of them, it's stupid.
Well, the concept of dichotomy gets awesome, in my opinion, because it goes beyond just choices. Dichotomy doesn't just necessarily mean options in a decision-making process. It also can be classifications. Are you capitalist or communist?
Sure, yeah.
Are you, so it could be, the concept of dichotomy is applied in a lot of areas of our life, not just in options, but in a lot of things. And it's really interesting why we have this need to oversimplify everything down into two options.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100% agree.
It's really cool. Mm-hmm. Really cool. So anyway. Yeah. Wow, that flew by. We're already at an hour. Shit.
About 53.
You got a quick one or you want to call it there?
Trying to see if I have a something quick, something easy. This is just something that's I'll start going off on that one. It was a talk about Yelp.
Podcast gold.
No, trust me, I could go off.
Listen, a bar owner talking about Yelp. It'll get hairy. You've seen the South Park episodes, like I am a Yelp reviewer. Yeah, yes, so good.
Yes,
so good.
Because I have come across those people who, without going into too much of it, she was like, this one woman was like, "I'm a blogger, I'm a food blogger, and they're gonna hear about this," and she just wrote a fucking Yelp review.
Oh God. Okay.
Or was it on Facebook or Google? I forgot what it was. That's all it was. It was fucking dumb. Anyway, but that's a whole other thing. No, I think I'm good unless you have something quick.
No, just hey, congratulations on your 2-week mark. When this airs, it'll be the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So how was your Thanksgiving? Was it good?
It was great. We did
Not
have
too many political debates, or
no? I don't think so. I sure hope so. Or hope not. We did do Friendsgiving. We missed you. Yeah. We missed you at Friendsgiving because you moved.
I missed you guys. Looked like fun.
I will. I didn't she doesn't watch this, so I'm going to throw the new wife under the bus because she doesn't watch this. I got kind of irritated. So you've come the last couple of years, I think, to Friendsgiving, and I now have a reputation, for better or for worse, for the turkey taking fucking forever.
I was gonna say late dinner.
Yeah, and
no, it's not even okay. First of all, it's not even a late dinner. Okay, you eat when it's dinner time. God damn it! Like,
sure.
Anytime I've gone to Friendsgiving at your place, we eat at like 7, and it's great. Anyway,
all right. So the reason why the last couple of years, and I thought I fixed this year, but apparently not, was because, we all learn every day, Mitch. When I'm smoking the turkey, so it starts at like, let's say 35 degrees, 32 degrees, whatever. From 30 degrees to like 90 to 100 degrees goes really fast.
Yeah.
And it's around like 100, you have to go 165, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
So all the way to about 120 goes very fast. So the last few years, I've gotten paranoid because it'll be like 120 and there's still like 3 hours left.
Shit,
so I'll turn the heat down.
Oh.
And then I'll turn it back up, but it's too late and now it's taking longer, blah, 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 blah. So this year, I vowed to myself, I was like, I am not going to touch the fucking heat. No matter what, I'm not touching the heat.
What do you set it at? 325?
So the smoker, you just kind of put it on, you literally just like turn it to high.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then it goes, I think it usually gets up to like 250. The smoker's a little different. But it got up to about 325. But just in my head, I was like, I'm not going to fucking touch it. I put the bacon in to drip on it, but that's it. Like, I'll take it out, whatever. And it got to about 110. And we're about 2 hours out, and my lovely, beautiful wife, she went, hey, it's cooking kind of fast. And I was like, no.
Oh, shit.
I was like, no, it's fine. And she was like, I just think at the rate it's going, it's going to be done before anyone gets here. And
was she in your head now? Did she
put
that
in your
head?
I was like, no, it's not.
Oh, no.
And then she did say at some point, like, I'm just nervous about it. And I was like, oh. And in my head, I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, but okay.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't ready till like 8 o'clock, a little after 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, what do you want?
It was, at one point, I took it out of the smoker and put the oven inside at like 400 degrees.
Yeah.
And so there was like 10 degrees left. And that last, like I said, that last 20 to 30 degrees takes the longest. So we set the oven to 400. I took it out and threw it in there. And it took about maybe 20 more minutes. But I was just like, fuck. And the whole time, everyone, you know, all the guys were like, "Oh, Mike, really? You said it was gonna be on time?" Like, blah blah blah, and they were all just giving me shit. And the whole time, I was like,
"Yeah,
I'm not gonna throw under the bus. Not gonna say anything. Not gonna say anything. Not gonna do
it." And now here you are. Like,
she doesn't watch it. She's not listening. She's at the door.
Hey, it's just between you and me and our 10 followers.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's we're actually having a. So I mean. To clarify, we're recording this the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Oh, by the way, I didn't go out drinking tonight. I was going to go to a bar and see the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. I didn't do it. Oh well. No, but we're having my wife's parents over for Thanksgiving tomorrow, so it'll just be the 4 of us. And I am making a turkey, and it is the first time I've ever made a turkey. So it'll be.
How are you cooking it?
In the oven, roasting it.
Just basic cooking. Yeah.
Just basic, like not even doing the stuffing. I'm just gonna stuff its ass full of lemons and onions and shit.
That's what I do. Yeah. I usually do lemons and peppers.
Yeah, spread it with some garlic butter mix kind of thing. Covered in the onion. Covered in the oven for that'd be pretty good. Onion ring turkey. Covered in the oven at 325. They said about 15 minutes a pound, so mine works out to about 5 hours, I think.
Do you have a thermometer?
I do. Yeah,
like a wireless thermometer you can stick in there.
No, I have a probe one, so I'll be like at a certain point I'll start checking it and then basting and doing all that shit. So.
Sure, I would say my cooking tips. No,
yeah, Mike's cooking tips.
Cause I remember my dad did this once because I told him like I would brine mine in beer, and so he took it and he would he put it. It was actually weird. He put it like I think it was an IPA in a spray bottle.
Ooh,
and so just every like 20 minutes he put it like on the grill, but he would go in there and just spray the shit out of it with beer.
Interesting.
And so that might be fun.
Huh. I might try. Like I told my wife, I'm like, I'm gonna do this, but we need more turkey dinners throughout the year. Why is it only like one that we do a year? Like let's have more turkey like get like 2 or 3 in there. I mean, turkey's good. That's a lot of food. So yeah, I might get crazy with some of the experiments with making turkey.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, well, happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. Happy late Thanksgiving, all you listeners.
And then also, before we go out, I remember when this happened, I promised myself I would say something. We have to do a quick rest in peace to Jason David Frank.
Who's that? Oh, the Green Ranger.
I was like,
yeah, the Green Ranger. Oh, I'm like, wait, who? Yeah. That was tragic. I see him on the shelf behind you, right there. The little minifig next to Groot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That one got me in the childhoods.
Yeah,
the childhood feels.
That was terrible. I woke up because my friend texted me, at like 5 a.m. my time, which is, normal time for you guys. But and he said, he said, yeah, not the Green Ranger. I'm like, what the fuck? I looked it up and saw that he took his own life. I was crushed. That ruined my day.
And you know what? We have talked about this before. I don't really get worked up about celebrity deaths. I know I said Kobe. Kobe got me because that was different.
Kobe was one.
And with
Paul Walker got me. I don't know why, but like Paul Walker, I thought the Fast and Furious movies were dumb. I think most of his movies were trash, but Paul Walker, for whatever reason, I'm like, God damn.
Well, I think part of it also is in the way they die, and Paul Walker's death was obviously just horribly tragic. Same with Kobe, and then with JDF, Jason David Frank, killed himself. I think it's been confirmed, right? And I was just like, fuck, because like if you know me, if you look at my Facebook, like I used to have just the Green Ranger as my default photo. Like that was like a huge part of my childhood. And even like when COVID started, Danny did try to make that thing go viral of like
the Green Ranger challenge.
Well, no, he called it park quarantine.
Yeah.
Park quarantine.
Yeah, that's right.
And so he tried to make this thing go viral, and as a joke, I put on a Green Ranger costume and tried to do something.
That was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. If we could post that on this page, that'd be great.
I'm not ashamed of it. It was funny.
Those of you who haven't seen it, it's like, because Danny did this like funny, like obviously trying to be shitty, kind of like parkour over the couch or something like that.
Yeah.
And Mike's response to it was being in a Green Ranger outfit and doing an even shittier bound over the couch.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like... It was one of those early COVID challenges. Since you were quote-unquote stuck at home, you do like these silly challenges. Yeah. And, but anyway, so it's like he was a huge part of me, my life growing up. And and so he also had like, I'm not sure if you followed him on Facebook, but like he had a huge online presence.
Wow.
A lot of people followed him. He would post all the time. He was, doing the whole, like he would go to the different kind of Comic-Con events because he was, he's fucking the Green Ranger. Everyone knows him. He's the biggest.
Yeah.
And so he was doing all this stuff. And of course, this is a common tale of you never see it coming.
Yeah.
Because this guy is so beloved from his fan base. Like, he's traveling. He's doing all this shit. Like, everyone loves him. And all of a sudden, it's like, boom, no one even knew.
Wow. I didn't know all that. It kind of reminds me of when Robin Williams passed. It was that everyone was like, what? No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's just one of those things like, it's the childhood aspect of it for me, the cult following, and I was part of that cult following of his. Like I said, I had the fucking Green Ranger behind me. I think I have him on a poster somewhere as well. And it was just kind of like shit. Anyway, to go out on a downer. But
I mean, the one time I ever was one of the few times I was ever almost in a fight when I was in school was when I was like 7, and me and some kids were at recess playing Power Rangers, and we started fighting over who got to be the Green Ranger, and almost threw hands with these motherfuckers because
this man, the Green Power Ranger, took on the entire Power Rangers by himself and worked them. And it's fiction, but I give all credit to JDF. He did that shit.
Yeah, he did it.
So that one,
he was also the White Ranger technically, right? So there you go. He had two Rangers, all right? Not that shitty Red Ranger.
Because I was reading about it. So he started as the Green Ranger, then became the White Ranger, and then as the Power Rangers evolved, because it was like the Mighty Morphin, and then it became Zeo. I didn't watch it because I got older. But he was also at one point a Red Ranger. I think he had some other color, and then like I think his last appearance on the show, he came, or was it a video game or comic? He came back as like an alternate version of the Green Ranger who was like actually evil. He was like godlike evil.
Whoa.
Something like that. I don't have the specifics in front of me, but
I love it.
Yeah, and like I said, normally I don't really care about celebrity deaths. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're sad. Anyone dying is sad. I'm not going to take that away, but it's not something I'm like, oh, that sucks, and I kind of move on. But like this one, it was one of those ones that I was kind of like, fuck.
No, someone like you, not someone like you. I'll just say you. One thing you like to do is when there's a celebrity death, you usually drop a pretty dark joke about it that day. Like usually like pretty quick. But there's a few out there because like even when Kobe, it was like you still like won't. I'm not gonna do Kobe. But there's some celebrities out there where you're like, nah, I can't do it. Let someone else do it. But
yeah, and I'm sure I haven't seen any, but I'm sure people have dropped jokes about him too. I couldn't think of any because that's where my head goes. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Rest in peace, and let's get on this mental health thing, man. People be dying.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's our PSA. Hey, man, let's do some mental health out there.
we should get all the podcasters together that we could find and do We Are the World.
Oh shit, yeah, or something that has to do with mental health. We'll do Down with the Sickness or something.
Oh boy.
On that note. All right. Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. I'm Mitch. That's Mike. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later.
Bye.